The last few days of the legislative session are a lung-busting sprint to Saturday's noon finish line. Maybe a crawl, actually, once you pass that finish line from exhaustion. But lawmakers have passed all sorts of legislation by now. So here to help us call the race, former Lieutenant Governor Dianne Dennish. Perhaps she's glad not pulling all-nighters right now in the Senate. Former New Mexico House Republican Whip Daniel Foley, who probably feels the same. He's here. From the Garrity Group Public Relations guru and a former state Senate staffer, Tom Garrity, and attorney and one-time chair of the New Mexico Democratic Party, John Wertheim. Let's start with the budget, guys. The House and Senate have passed it, and it's up to the governor now. She says it gets a veto as soon as it hits her desk. Now, Daniel, she could just, let me ask you this, she could just line item things that she has an issue with. Why whole cloth reject the whole thing?
Well, I think for a few reasons. One of them is, you know, right now it looks like prisons aren't funded correctly, which guarantees us winding up in court. And she can't move money to refund things.
Right.
She can cut money out of things, the governor can, but the governor can't say, you know, you spent too much over here, let me move it over there. And so I think some of the real problems with the budget are not fixable unless the legislature decides to get serious about funding what needs to be funded. And I think also about listening to some of the governor's priorities. You know, she has shown that she's willing to compromise and work with them, and there's pretty much been a blanket no to what she's asked for. She keeps moving further and further. Compromise means both people have to give a little bit. She's not getting that from them, and so I think, you know, the lack of funding, the cutting of things like economic development, prisons is going to cause some real consternation with the citizens in New Mexico, and I think that's what she's going to make sure is answered.
Has there been a lack of compromise on Democrats' part? Would you agree with Dan on that, or has the governor, in fact, not compromised enough to find some middle ground here?
Well, let's remember the budget was passed on a bipartisan vote by Republicans and Democrats, and they thought it was a good budget to pass. I think the big issues for her, I don't think it really has as much to do with underfunding prisons as Dan might like to say. It's mostly about her policy issues, which she outlined in her initial remarks about veto, which had to do with the retention policies, with the merit pay policies, and the legislature saw fit, Republicans and Democrats, to change the merit pay to more of a stipend pay for going to work in low-performing schools.
Sure.
And, you know, I had a letter last week from a teacher who was interesting, who described her entire class and what the disparities were. At the end of the day, she said, I qualify for merit pay, but it would not solve the problems in my classroom.
Interesting. This is a brilliant segue. I'm glad you mentioned that, because the Senate moved to turn a $3 million merit pay bonus for exemplary teachers into a $2 million bonus for teachers who take jobs in low-performing districts, as the Lieutenant Governor just mentioned. That's a bone of contention. We talked to Senator Carlos Cisneros and Representative Larry Larrañaga at the Capitol this week about the language of that change that gives some lawmakers a good dose of heartburn.
It is limited to those failing districts, but unpredictable of who they are and where they're at. So we left that open and essentially allow for the executive through the secretary to make that determination.
That's the big difference when it comes down to it, is just saying we give a stipend to someone who moves to a low-performing school, but there's nothing in the language that says we qualify you, you're a good teacher, and so you are going there expecting to make a difference because you are a proven teacher.
John, this is less than 1/8 of 1% of the education budget, but the dust up here is pretty good. Is this worth all the fight?
Certainly not. I mean, I think it's just a game being played by the governor's office. I mean, if you think about the size relative to nearly a $6 billion budget, it'd be like you go in to buy a $25,000 new car and you decide to make your decision on whether to buy the car over $15. That's the relative difference between the two things. So I think this is all posturing. I mean, this idea that there's no bipartisan compromise on the budget is just hooey. I mean, as the Lieutenant Governor pointed out, I mean, we had a unanimous vote coming out of the state Senate on this very budget. So this idea that there's no compromise by the Democrats and no compromise by the Republicans is just not true. So I think that the governor is coming up with a list of bullet points that she wants to talk about, and she's going to spend millions of dollars, or at least $1 million, for a special session so she can have a list of a limited number of bullet points. And this idea of there being a real policy debate over the merit pay, I mean, it's a legitimate idea that you want to create an incentive for people to go into low-performing districts. And this whole debate over whether you specifically have the word exemplary in there just seems made up to me.
Right. Interesting about this, I'm going to swing back to what John just mentioned, and this is the merit pay issue. This is an interesting discussion when you think about it. I'll hold my personal opinion until I hear you guys out here, but I have a feeling Democrats are actually quite wrong here. But you know, where do you think this could possibly go? Is this worth getting tripped up over, this merit pay idea?
It's not, but it actually is going to trip everything. You know, when you look at the word, what fascinates me about this whole conversation is the use of the word exemplary. You know, is that because if you have ones that are really good, then you're admitting that you have teachers who aren't exemplary. Right. And then what's being done about the teachers who aren't declared as exemplary? So all of a sudden you have a separating of the masses, which has got to be driving the teachers union up a wall, because to them every teacher is exemplary. And I don't think any of us can, you know, really say who's doing a good job, who's doing a bad job, because of you know, teachers have a lot of different things to, you know, deal with in a classroom. You know, especially very different backgrounds of children. So I think that one word exemplary is really going to be the thing that trips up the discussion if this discussion actually continues.
Dan, let me ask you, throw a proposition at you.
Sure.
Say
I'm always open for propositions.
Yes, you are. That's why you're here. You're a great teacher. You're in the running perhaps for some merit pay. Perhaps you have an older parent you're dealing with as well in your personal life. You don't have the option to move, to be a teacher in a low-performing school somewhere else. You're now out of the game for that merit pay. How is a teacher supposed to choke that down? Because it seems to me the result of that's going to be the reward's going to go to the young and the mobile.
No, I think that's a valid question, but I think the bigger question is we talk about these failing schools, and yet you consistently look at these schools that are underperforming in districts. You know, historically we don't send the best teachers to those school districts. People seem to get, you know, demoted to the bad school districts.
Right.
So now we're going to give someone $1,200 and they're going to go to a low-performing school district for what reason, or whatever that dollar figure is. I think the problem is this thinking that you're hearing around this table right now is why we're 18th in spending and 49th in outcomes, because we're not wanting to find ways. You have to have teachers that are good. It's just the way life is. There's exemplary ones, there's kind of good ones, and there's bad ones. And what we've done for years in this state is we pay everybody the same. Go through the motions, you get paid.
But Tom makes a good point, and who makes this decision? Who is this hooded tribunal, Governor, this Lieutenant Governor, that gets to tell which teachers you qualify, you don't, you get a bonus? Because again, this is coming out of a bit of a different pot. So it's not necessarily a raise, it's a bonus, which is tricky on its own.
Well, let me just say about the opportunity to have a stipend. There are schools all over New Mexico, especially in the Albuquerque area, that now the principals are deciding who can come to their school, and they have to sign a contract that they will be meeting certain goals. I disagree with Dan on that issue that, you know, you're going to get the worst teachers going in there because they get a stipend. Principals are not going to let that happen anymore because they want their schools to move up. Neighborhoods and parents want their schools to be better. So there are other ways to do it. And like I said earlier, the most profound thing that happened to me was this letter from a teacher who's not a part of a teachers union, who said, you can give me merit pay, but it won't change the kids I get in my first grade class unless we do something different.
But we need to
I just want to say one thing. It's just important to point out, though, that with all due respect, Lieutenant Governor, 8 years as Lieutenant Governor, their policies were implemented, and we're still 18th in spending, 49th in outcomes.
Fair enough.
And so at some point we have to start. They do.
And a 70%
but the kids of today,
graduation
the kids of today don't deserve.
The
kids today don't deserve to be told, well, we just don't have time to help you. We'll figure something out 4, 5, 8 years from now.
Let me ask some other things that are hanging out there. We'll get back to this next week when some clarity happens or not on the budget. So, Tom. PRC bill, there's a conference committee as we tape this. It seems like something's coming that's going to be solved here. Do you feel like we can get to something that the governor can be comfortable with here as well?
We might be able to get something that the governor is comfortable with. The question is are New Mexico residents going to be comfortable with whatever the final outcome is? You know, qualifications, as we were, you know, kind of talking before the program. You know, what offices have these types of qualifications? And you know, who's going to be available to run for the office? And you know, chances are the pool is going to get very small very fast.
The gun bill, we've got, it had some movement early. As we tape this is coming right down to a hard wire, right down to the wall here. A sense of where this might end up at this point, the gun bill.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, unfortunately, I think it may be a casualty, even though it's a broad bipartisan bill that the governor has suggested that she would sign. It's right on the edge of being one of these sensible measures that has broad bipartisan support that may very well not make it out of committee and therefore not be
The
enacted
makeup
into
of that
law.
committee is a difficulty as well for getting that thing out. So we'll see what happens there. The so-called Breaking Bad bill, Lieutenant Governor. This is interesting as well. The governor Governor Martinez has said, well, they're interested. They get it. But she wants to hitch some other. It should be included almost like a big omnibus kind of thing out of the federal government. Do you agree with that approach, or should this just be considered on its own value?
Well, I think what the attempt by the legislature is they've seen now that the devastating effects on the film industry of capping the incentives for the industry. So they're going to incrementally try to get back. The Breaking Bad, the TV series are a wonderful way to do that. So I would say that we should let that fly on its own and get back in there and have the opportunity to bring more TV series here.
Sure, absolutely.
And rotate that money into the economy.
That's the theory anyway.
That's the
there you
theory
go.
anyway.
Secretary-Designate Education Hannah Skandera. Where are we now after this? This is now year number whatever. It seems like we can't get to a resolution on this.
It could be, a continuing TV series. Tune in next season and see what happens, and see
get
if
a 30%, incentive.
There you
TV
go.
series.
Who would play her? This is what I want to
joke
know.
about it, but unfortunately, it is. This has turned into. Everybody's made their points. The Senate is not going to have an opportunity to vote, which is unfortunate. I understand the political, gamemanship that's taking place, but there has to come a point in time that, okay, point is made, let's get on with life.
Right.
And I think that just the lack of her, nomination just being stuck in the Rules Committee, I think is a sign that, okay, we need to get things moving around.
Right. You agree with that? Is it a sign of something bigger, a bigger problem, that Ms. Skandera can't get a fair hearing here?
I've talked about this ad nauseum. The Senate is overstepping their boundaries. I said this when Lieutenant Governor and Governor Richardson were there. Elections have consequences. They have the right to appoint the people to do the job. You hold them accountable at the election for the people they appoint. It's not your job to be an obstructionist. And I feel that way about Washington, D.C. also. Barack Obama won the election. Give him his team.
But the one problem is, like, Secretary Skandera designate has no classroom experience, which is a statutory requirement of the job. And there are different views on what the requirements are for that job. But these are legitimate debates here. Here's a conservative ideologue, basically a think tank person with no classroom experience. Is she even qualified for that job? A lot of Democrats say no, and they're not too impressed with how she performed at the hearings.
So you believe elections don't have consequences?
I believe that I just believe the advice and consent function of both the U.S. Senate and the state Senate means something, and so
Elections do have consequences, and the Senate was elected too, and they have a responsibility to air all of the.
They should have done that for 8 years when they were appointing people.
And on the
last
larger
time that
topic
didn't
of
qualify.
non-traditional educators, I'd like to see what, we've already been able to see a little bit of what she's been able to do. But I think the whole thing of keeping folks out just because they don't have a certain designation, that there's a really, there's a big problem with that. Great ideas aren't designated to one particular to folks who have a particular designation or a particular degree. Great ideas and moving people forward, that's creativity, that's life experience, and I think that Secretary-designate has those.
Quick question for everybody. Our last topic, the constitutional amendment to increase the amount of funding for early childhood education. Yes or no? Is it going to have a go before Saturday noon?
I'm pessimistic because I think that there are powerful folks in the legislature who don't think it's a good idea, and it's a legitimate debate. I think a lot of Democrats are supportive of it, but there's folks who think we're digging too deep into the fund.
That would include the committee chairman, where this sits right now, and that's a no. You feel for that reason it's just not going to happen. John Arthur Smith is just saying no. Okay.
I want it to happen. I don't think it's going to happen.
Interesting. Lieutenant Governor, what do you think?
I think John Arthur Smith has abused his power. It's made it through 5 committees, the 2 combined. He's abusing his chairmanship and keeping it because he doesn't want it. Fine, don't vote for it, John Arthur, but let the debate begin.
You feel that way about Senator Lopez?
I do.
Okay.
Interesting.
Consistent.
Yeah.
I applaud her for that.
Good note to end right there. Good stuff, guys. After our break, our New Mexican Makers series continues with Governor Susana Martinez.